Yeah, sorted. Alrighty. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first of our 4 free training webinars. We are Jeeper Diesel Spares, and as an introduction, we sell parts such as injectors, pumps, suction control valves, EGRs, etc. And we provide technical advice over the phone at no cost. It's through providing advice over the phone that we realise as a company that there is a lack of training available in the industry. This is how these webinars were developed. Today we'll be focusing on fault codes and how to read them. This webinar will be interactive and you will be able to ask questions through the chat during and after the webinar, although we will not be enabling video or audio for anyone other than ourselves. We're hoping to add these recordings to our website in the near future. We're still trying to figure out exactly how to go about doing that. And also, we're sorry if we don't get to your questions, but if you feel as though your question hasn't been answered throughout the webinar, feel free to send us through an email and we can reply that way. Otherwise, we'll get started.
Good afternoon or good morning if we're in WA. Welcome to all the Capricorn, Repco and some members from Diesel Help Australia. Yep. Right, understanding fault codes. This is the first course we're doing today. It's understanding fault codes. So we're going to have a look at a couple of machines that we're using to read these fault codes, and then we're going to pick out a quite cheap machine today to do this thing, and it's on an actual vehicle that's failed. The fault codes we're looking at today aren't the fault codes that we get this machine out. So this is a machine very similar to you'll be using a handheld machine, G-Scan, Snap-on, Autel, things like that. Handheld machine, very good, they make money. These aren't the fault codes we're talking about today. We're going to talk about the fault codes today that you put this machine on, you drove the car and the lights come back on. And I'm sure every workshop will have these incidents where we don't get it the first time. And these are the fault codes we're talking about today. So what we're going to use today, I know it looks a bit rubbish, but we'll be using a very, very cheap OBD scanner, because we're going to use OBD codes today. The reason we're using OBD codes is OBD codes don't change. Generic codes change from manufacturer to manufacturer. So with an OBD code, it's generic throughout every car. And we'll be using this machine. Only reason we'll use this is it's not powered by a battery. So the amount of times I've messed about with one of the other machines to find we've not got a power or something to our OBD socket, I keep this one in my box all the time now. If I can't communicate with the machine, the first thing I do, I put that in it, see if it powers up. There's no battery in it, so it has to power up off the car. A lot of the other scan tools have got batteries in them. That's about the only use for this. But that's what we do use this one for. So always keep that one handy. If you can't communicate with your particular tool, go to that one and just see if we've got power on the terminal. You don't have to get your test lights out, right? Just put one of them in. They're probably about $99 from your local motorist shop. But the reason we're not using this one today is the graphs are too small to actually see things happening. And we're going to use one of these machines, and it's a laptop-based machine, so it's an interface in between your laptop and the car. The beauty of these machines is that we can read everything on a lot bigger scale and we can see things. That machine will scope, well, it's not a scope, it reads it through the OBD, but it'll read like a scope onto your screen. How big your laptop is, that's how big a screen you've got, so you can see all these little things. And we can look up to 6 values at once, all being graphed. All I've done with this graph, I've copied it off the screen of that. So it's a lot easier than looking at these numbers jumping up and down. The G-Scan, the Snap-on, brilliant machines, so you're going to make money with them. This is the machine when you were going next level, and the customers had a problem, you fix something, the problems come back. And these are the fault code we're going to have a look at today. So, first thing we're going to look at today, and just one little thing, a limp home mode does not mean limp around for 4 weeks mode. And you need to tell your customers this, because this car that we're going to talk about today failed completely because that is what they've done. But the garage got it in, a simple job, went out to a bigger and a bigger job. So we'll have a look at what actually happened with this one. It's a Volkswagen, mid-2000s Volkswagen. It's not a common rail. It was a PD system, so it's a bit of a different system, but basically all the sensors work the same. The injectors are worked in a different way, but everything else on the car works the same. It's got a variable vane turbo, it's got an airflow meter, same as a common rail. So I thought this was quite a good one. We looked at this about 4 or 5 weeks ago for a local garage who were having problems with it. So the first fault code we had on this car was a P073. Straight away you might notice on a P code, the 0, it'll always be the same. That means you're using it in OBD. That's all it means. The second number relates to the category, what you're looking at. On this one, it's brakes, because that code means we've got a problem with the brakes. So the only 2 digits we really need to look at is these last 2, after we've looked at these, all 3, and that tells us whereabouts on the brakes it is. So if you get an undefined fault code, which a lot of times you do, if you go on the internet and have a look around at similar codes, very similar numbers, and they'll use the same first digit, use the same second digit, you'll probably find that group is very near to the fault code you're looking for. And that's if you get an undefined code on your scan tool. If you use an Asian scan tool on a European vehicle, that happens quite a lot. If you're using a European scan tool on Japanese vehicle, it can happen again. So I'm sure everybody's seen this. So first things, this fault code P0703, it's a brake failure. The garage had stripped it down, the brakes were all well worn, and then he's put all new brakes on, new sensors, still had the problem. In the end, I followed his car and the brake lights were working intermittently. Funny thing is, a few weeks before they fitted new backlights, some Chinese or wherever they came from. The bulbs weren't right, and they kept breaking contact, and that's what brought the fault code on. There was actually nothing wrong with the brakes, but the ECU could see on them brake bulbs there was something wrong with them. As soon as we fixed this problem, put new bulbs in, all good. The gentleman drove it, fine, give it back to the customer. Probably 15 minutes later, they rung back. It's done the same thing again. At that point, the fault code had changed to P0234. We want to change that one, Katie. And you can go up to 250. So then the customers come back and said, it's the same problem. They're getting the same lights coming on. They're getting the same loss of power. Obviously, very embarrassing for the garage. He plugs this tool in and he rang me up and said, Gary, I can't believe this. It's changed number now, the fault code. So today we're going to have a look at the new numbers that have come from the brakes being faulty because of cheap brake light bulbs. Wow, so we can see now, Katie just found all the OBD codes that relate. So the first number we're not looking at because we know it's OBD. If we used one of these generic code readers, that probably changed to a 1 in this instant. But all these fault codes, all the way down, relate to turbo problems. So it's very important we look at these last 2 digits that tell us where the problem lies. It could be an overboost, it could be no boost, it could be something wrong with the electric solenoids. Look at these fault codes and especially look at the last 2 digits. So when we've started the car, we have to always remember what happened before. It's been going into a limp mode for quite a bit. Started the car, the code cleared, I drove the car myself. Within 5 minutes, the code's back in. So we use the scan tool connected to the laptop to graph quite a lot of different things all through the car. We're graphing airflow, boost pressure, fuel. When you're graphing fuel, the fuel quantity is made up by all different sensors going into the ECU, and then the ECU telling how much time on it gives the injectors, telling how much pressure to make at the pump, and that relates to how much fuel you're putting through the car. So let's have a look what actually happened when I went with this scan tool onto the boost pressure sensor. Have a look at the boost pressure sensor. No. So we'll have a look at what actually happened. But we can see this 1.6 volts here is with ignition on. So straight away we turned our ignition on. That's telling me we've got power to this boost pressure solenoid. What we'll have on a sensor, what we'll have is a 5 volt feed, and then we'll have a signal back to the ECU. So we've got 5 volts to work with. So with the ignition on, 1.6 volts already. That 1.6 volts, if you've just got your ignition on, has to be atmospheric pressure. It can't be anything else, that has to be atmospheric pressure. So when the vehicle started, it's here, and we can see it jump up to 1.7 volts straight away. When it's jumped up there, the turbo's actually working. So a turbo working on idle. And this is what we've got, it's a variable vane turbo. Get this. And it's worked by a vacuum onto an actuator which pushes the vanes backwards and forwards in the turbo. When this happens, it enables the turbo to be like a small turbo and a large one. So we can move these vanes wherever we are through the rev range. So with this kind of turbo, we can get turbo pressure low down and high up. The old-fashioned turbos, you either had a small turbo that made pressure low down or a large turbo that made pressure high up. With a variable vane, we can do both. So let's have a look where we go. We go 1.6, and then suddenly here we've jumped up. So that is where we started the car. So ignition on 1.6. Straight away, we've gone up to 1.7 volts on the boost pressure sensor. That shows us that the boost pressure, the turbo is actually working on idle, and it's pushing air through. So straight away, that little lip tells us the turbo's working. Yeah? Well then, what I've done here, I just turned the car off. Turned the car off, but something a bit strange has happened. We've gone 1.6 volts, ignition on. 1.7 volts, the turbo started working on idle. Then 0.8 volt. So obviously, if that's atmospheric pressure, we worked out here, it's gone into a vacuum situation. What's happened here, your inlet flap is closed, and that works on one of these as well. So a lot of them, some are electronic, and they just close a flap in the inlet. And what they're doing this for is for when you turn the car off, it turns it off without vibration. Yeah. Another reason we use this is when we put EGR on, we close the inlet off only slightly, so you won't see this drop then. But if we don't see this drop when we turn it off, then we'll get another problem. The inlet flap's not working or something like that. So we always look for this when we turn a car off, this drop in the boost pressure. When you look at these, if you've got one of these on something like a Ford Ranger 2008, all you've got is a vacuum to it. There's no sensors. It doesn't know where it is. And the ECU is finding out where it is of the boost pressure sensor and the airflow meter. So possibly, If your boost pressure sensor weren't working correctly, you wouldn't see that, and it would blame the flap not working because it can't see it work. So it's very interesting looking at these charts and understanding what every level is. So now again, we've started the vehicle. We're back up running 1.7. Suddenly, we've dropped down without my interference, turn the ignition off or anything. So what's happened here? The EGR's kicked in. So the EGR valve's opened in the exhaust, let hot air in from the exhaust, the flaps closed slightly, and then it's just dropped a little bit. It actually drops down. It actually drops down to 1.6 volts. So it took all the boost pressure away from the turbo. It's like the exhaust fumes through, and it's just running with not much pressure or vacuum or anything there at that time. It's just letting these hot gases go in the inlet manifold and burn off any excess, keeping the exhaust temperature lower. That's what the EGR does. But well, still, we haven't got our fault coding. So now we're going to drive the car. 21 minutes. So we're going to start driving the car. So we can look here, this is boost pressure. 1, 2, 3. And then we get a straight line down. We've got 3 there. First gear, you notice I didn't rev it too hard. Second gear, I got into it. Third gear, it failed. On a lot of these machines, like this one, when you're looking at these values, at the side it'll give you a minimum and maximum. And that's what the voltage has been to minimum and maximum since you started the machine. So what we'll see on here, we'll see a 0.8 of a volt, and then we'll see a 4.2 peak. If we took this out of the equation where the car actually failed, we'd still get the same voltage. 0.8, when I turned it off, we'd still get 4.2. So this is why we've come onto this machine, so we can look at things in a bit more depth without going to the extremes of getting the oscilloscope out, because we can flick from all different actual values we're using these laptop-based machines. So we can run 6 different sensors onto our screen, and then if we don't like them or we're not seeing something, we can pick another 6 out and we can keep looking at them when the fault's occurring until we see something happening on one of the sensors. Yeah. So we have to work out now what's happening here. And how I did this was, this up here, I put fuel quantity. Then I worked out was, as soon as the fault code comes in, it drops all vacuum to the turbo, so the turbo just drops away and you can't make turbo pressure. Then the ECU reduces all fuel to the injectors to allow you a very bit of fuel to put it into a limp home mode. So that's what it's done here. So I had a nagging doubt about the vacuum. All I know is on the second time using third gear, it failed here. Yeah, so I did it over and over again. And then I worked out something. How long it stayed there was the critical part. So in second gear, I probably, if I'd have held it in gear longer, I may have got the fault. But as soon as I went to third and held it in longer, that's when I get the fault. So what's actually, I realize is happening, the wastegate is not backing off at this point. When the fuel drops off and everything, about here, the ECU would have commanded the wastegate to drop off. So then I added the wastegate onto it. Soon as that point came, the wastegate dropped off. But I knew it wasn't dropping off. So then I have to decide, why is it not dropping off when it was? So a little trick I did. I got my vacuum gauge, I teed into the actual turbo. You can just see that. And on the screen, I taped it to the top of my screen. This is the only way I could find out of doing this, and knowing 100% it were right. So what I did then, I videoed it with my iPhone, the whole laptop and that. So then watching it back, I know exactly when this fuel, you see the straight line down with the fuel and boost dropped off. Just before that, the vacuum dropped off to 0. So the ECU was looking at it, telling it to drop off, and then after a few milliseconds, it decides it's not dropping off, I'm going to put a fault code in. On the first hump here, I changed gear. So then we didn't see that, but the ECU was still telling it to drop off because it had gone up to 4.2 volts, and the ECU weren't allowing it to go that high, it's too much boost pressure. So then what happened? Why did this fail? Because of the bulbs. This line tells us here. So when we had our brake problem, it did exactly the same. It took all the boost off and all the fuel away. They've been driving this car around for weeks with no power, so then I got to thinking about these vanes in the turbo, variable vane turbo, all these little vanes inside. They've been in one position for 4 weeks. As soon as we fixed the problem, then they pushed all to the side, turbo were working again. Unknown to the workshop, all carbon had formed around these vanes. Every time you ask it for a lot of boost, it'd stick. The vacuum would be released off there, the blades would stay there. Leave the car for 2 minutes, start it up and then make their way back. But that's what he was doing, and this was all because of a couple of faulty bulbs and the customer running the car there longer and longer. Carbon in there. I actually managed to just clean them out with some oven cleaner, washed it all off and put it back together. The car worked fine after that. But these are the problems. We're getting one fault code leading to another, and there's a load of different reasons why they're doing it. So if we're having a fault code and a customer's not had it repaired, been in a long time, you might start driving the car, there might be a heck of a lot of black smoke come out the back. It's because that turbo is not working right, all the carbon's in it. So we have to be aware of this, because the last thing you want to do is fix somebody's car, give it them, send them on the way, the next day on the phone, it's doing the same again, it's not doing the same again. And basically, if they'd have brought it in the first day, they wouldn't be in having all this mess doing. I've just noticed that a very interesting question from Toyota in Melbourne. We'll just get the details of that one, but it's a very interesting question. That Land Cruiser one. Somebody's asked a question, but I'm going to go with this because it's very interesting for what we're doing today. I think they've got the same problem as very similar problem as we have here. So I'm just going to have a look at this one. Just read it. We've got a Land Cruiser 79 series 2005, and it's got a fault code of 33. We've got a 2-digit fault code. They must be a main dealer. So what already we've seen is when we're talking about these fault codes before, the main dealer has actually took these fault codes away, and they're just leaving them with code 33, and it'll be code 33, and there'll be an explanation at the side of it. Inlet. It's an inlet flap. I think I had this one the other week. So what you're looking at, we put a new inlet flap on it, new vacuum unit, new vacuum pipes. The problem still exists. This has been going on for 3 months. Can you just ask them if they've got the car there, and we'll just have a look at this. What we want to be looking at is where the inlet flap reads from, because I think on the 79 series we're talking about a 6-cylinder engine, a very late one, about 2005, 2006, before they changed the V8. They've got a vacuum on the inlet that pulls a flap to make the car turn off without shuddering. And sometimes it works with the EGR as well. But some of them have an EGR on as well. So what we're looking for, I'm not going to state that these are the right voltages. But what you want to see, and if you guys can just go to the car, put your stance along quickly, and see, we're looking for a startup. We will not get this pull up because you've not got a variable vane on it. So we're looking for a startup, and we'll then turn it off, and we're looking for this drop off here. On the boost pressure sensor, not on your inlet flap because it's not got a sensor on it. Brilliant. You're just going to do it now. Go and look at that. Right. Oh, that's really good. We've got to a certain point now with this. Just waiting for them to come back. That'll going to be a couple of minutes. We'll just wait for them to come back. So, let's look at this. Fault code 33, like we've said, they've took the numbers off. They're only using that fault code. Now, they've not been able to fix this vehicle because they can't see how it reads. It's just a vacuum unit on its own, turns off, turns on. And that's all it actually does. Yeah. Right. You can't see anything on the boost. Look at that. It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? They've just realised the pipe's off the boost pressure sensor. Put the pipe back on the boost pressure sensor, clear your fault code and try it over and over again. That's good. If we can fix something today, that's good. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they come back with in a minute. You knew that you're all that one. Yeah. Sorry about this, guys. I'm just waiting. Yeah. Code's cleared. Oh, that's brilliant because what's happened there? They've got this problem in on the car. It's on the scan tool. They've actually done. It said it's the inlet flap failing. They've fitted an inlet flap, and then they got to the trouble of fitting all the vacuum lines. The only thing they've not realised is that is read off the boost pressure sensor. The boost pressure sensors, I think he's making out the pipes all perished. With an old-fashioned turbo, it would have been a little bit down on power, but it wouldn't have been much down on power. Because you can have variable amounts of boost pressure, on an earlier one, it wouldn't have said your boost pressure's low. If your air cleaner were getting blocked or something like that, and it couldn't suck the air in, it could go low. A lot of sensors won't default because they can go low, high, temp sensors and everything like that. And just on that one, temperature sensors, every time you put your scan tool in, the first thing I look at, water temperature, fuel temperature. If they're not right, your scan tool's not reading the faults right, and it's not giving you the right data. It's the easiest one to look at. You turn your ignition on, it's a cold car, it's 20 degrees. If it doesn't say roughly 20 degrees there, if it's got 147 or something like that, it's because your scan tool's not reading it right, and that can cause a lot of problems when you're trying to diagnose. So that's brilliant. I'm just going to go through this one again. What they've had at this dealership, they've started up, they've turned it off, they've not got this, they've missed all that out. And I think I looked at one of these about 6 months ago that were very similar to that. That's why I knew about this. But it's not wrote anywhere that, about this. And it's not wrote anywhere how the fault code is. All it tells you is that's what the fault code is, it's the inlet flap. So with no wires going to it or anything like that, that's all you'd have done. I think everybody in probably the room would have changed the flap first. Brilliant. Thanks a lot for coming today, and thanks a lot for buying parts off us and letting us put more and more of these on. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to people's workshops doing training like I've done in the previous years, but it's just modern technology and we're moving on. So I'm just going to leave this to Katie now, and if anybody has got any questions about this that we couldn't see today, please can you send me an email and I'll get back to you. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week.
Awesome. So that concludes the first of 4 webinars that we've got. Just so you know, over the next 3 weeks, we'll be focusing on the topics of injector coding, fuel pump testing, and fuel injector removal and inspection. We'd like to thank all of you for supporting us through our very first webinar. And if there are any questions on the side that we can see, we'll try and reply to them before we get going. But otherwise, feel free to email us with any other questions you may have. Otherwise, we will see you all next week.